Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to EXSIN Live. Today, we're going to talk about something that's pretty important to leadership and to running an organization. And this is an article by Anne Marie Secu, and she interviewed Stephen Covey. You probably heard of him, but she starts the article with this. I want to start the discussion today with this statement because it's important. Trust and leadership are critical in navigating today's uncertain times when misinformation is on the rise and virtual interactions limit our ability to truly connect with each other. Often trust seems binary. It either exists or it doesn't. Not so, says Stephen M.R. Covey, author of Speed of Trust and his latest book, Trust and Inspire, How Truly Great Leaders Unleash Greatness in Others. Let me tell you something, folks. If you're watching the disinformation board and what's happening around the world to limit what's being said and told to you, you are missing out.
It always makes Dave nervous when I grab the control
Oh, he's gonna touch
because we never know.
No, he's here yet.
I usually shut the whole broadcast down.
So what we're going to talk about today is the importance of trust in leadership. And if you don't trust your leadership, and if the leaders don't trust your people, you have a very dysfunctional organization. You need to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm the one that believes that you got to first define what trust is, right? I mean, because people are going to mess up. People are going to do things that in the moment are going to make you go, God dang. Or they'll say things like, well, that's out of character. He or she's normally not like that. Most times those aren't really trust issues. It's just somebody screwed up on a decision or in the moment. So I think you got to define that, right? But to Dave's point, if you don't have trust within the organization, you're dead before you get started.
Well, and so you bring up a good point, and we're going to talk about command and control leadership versus trust and inspire
Right.
leadership. And trust and inspire leadership, in my mind, is simply this: as a leader of an organization, you bring your subordinate leaders, your managers, into the office when you onboard them, and you tell them this. And I did this for everybody that I ever led. I challenge you to fail. Here are the boundaries. Push it as hard as you can, and when you make a mistake, it's going to be okay. Let's talk about it and let's move forward. If you can get that transparency in your organization, it is amazing what your people will do. We're also going to talk about micromanaging here in a little bit because that's a command and control issue. I'll give you my take on that. But really, when you talk about inspired trust and leadership, you have to build the onboarding process and the boundaries for your team so they know where they can act. And as they get more experience, those boundaries move wider and wider, right?
Yeah.
But you have to give them some place to start so they know where they can kind of screw up and not kill the company.
If you don't have a culture that allows mistakes to happen, that happen out of effort, that happen out of trying to make something happen, if everybody's so scared they're going to destroy their career if they make a mistake, you're going to have a very contracted organization that's never going to grow.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Phil.
Okay.
So we're all going to agree, just in theory today, that transparency is a huge part of great leadership. You agree with that?
Yeah.
So here's a question. Can you be too transparent as a leader?
Oh boy, I hate it when we don't talk about these things. I might get the question, I might get it wrong. I personally think you can be too transparent in certain areas. Personally. Now, what I'm talking about is oversharing, right? So I think you got to be transparent in the operation of the business, in how the business is doing. Where are we struggling? Where are we succeeding? And you got to be completely transparent in those areas. But I have seen, and you have seen, business owners that are too transparent. So if you're talking to a group of people and you're telling them we got to really tighten down expenses, and you go, hey, I won't be here Thursday. I'm flying down to LA to pick up my new airplane. Probably not a good thing. Because you just confused the whole organization.
That's not transparent. That's just bad business.
That's just dumb.
Yeah.
But they're oversharing. That's what I mean. It's about oversharing. You got to be conscious of that.
Well,
but I don't think you can be too transparent on what's going on in the business.
I will tell you that most leaders, 90% of leaders, are not transparent enough.
Agreed.
They hold stuff too close to the vest. They don't let their team in on what's going on. And that in turn affects the team's ability to go execute the mission that they're supposed to execute. Stephen Covey kind of feels the same way. His comment to this question was, right now leaders aren't transparent enough. We're trying to move to the trust and inspire away from command and control type leadership, which is a little older school. But what I will tell you is this: great leaders for centuries have been building trust and inspire leadership in their organizations. Those are the hugely effective.
Those are the ones that stand out.
Right. Those are the ones you go, I want to follow that person.
Yeah.
I want to go do their stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, everybody would assume that General Patton was a command and control. He might have had command and control tendencies, but he was truly trust and inspire. Great military leaders are trust and inspire. Those are the ones that become 4-stars that lead combat troops into war. Those are the ones that get the impossibly tough assignments. You have to be able to have trust and inspire people if you're going to get great outcomes.
So here's the next question. How can you tell if someone you work with is trustworthy, and are there certain characteristics you should look for?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. You want me to rattle some off?
Well, I mean, Bill's answer is yes.
Well, no, I mean, that's like breathing air. But I think that there's, obviously you got to keep your commitments. You got to honor what you say you're going to do. All the things that also, to be quite frank, many people struggle with.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a strong culture, it'll eat a culture up. If you have a strong culture, then you can help get those people back on track. And it's also something that it's a rare situation. It's not a habit. It's not something who they are. It's something that happens.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece for here, if you're a employee or a member of the organization or the leader, if you stay true to your commitments and you're open when you make a mistake, you open your heart to people and say, look, I screwed this up. It's on me. I'll get it fixed. Those little bitty things, those little acknowledgments and those open and honest conversations, the transparency piece, right? That shows you the commitment they are to be trustworthy and credible in your organization. Because people that try to hide things or try to put them under the rug or keep them away from you, that's a bigger issue. And that's endemic in a lot of organizations, that we have people that they don't want to look bad, so they mislead their leadership. Yeah. I don't want to use harsh words, but
or they overstate what they're doing, or they, and sales is where this really shows up, in my opinion. It shows up everywhere, but where it's most easy to see is if you're having a sales meeting and they go around and say, almost every sales meeting, at some point they go, what do you got going on right now? Yeah, what are you working on? Who do you have in the pipeline? There's all these.
It's all good.
It's all. Man, I haven't been this busy in months. Right. I think all these deals are going to close in 3 to 6 weeks. And then they spend 3 weeks killing themselves trying to figure out how they're going to try to get something to hit. I mean, so it's this vicious cycle that occurs.
Brutal
cycle.
Vicious cycle.
Brutal.
Yeah, and I think as a leader of an organization, you have to initially trust your folks. And I always said trust but verify.
Yep.
And this gets into a little bit of a micromanagement discussion, but I think that we misunderstand micromanagement. Now, there are some micromanagers out there, and I absolutely will not argue that. But there's also people out there that think when you hold them accountable that you're micromanaging them. Well, as a leader with new folks in your organization, you owe it to your team to show them you care enough about what they're doing that you're going to check up on them, right? And you're going to ask those questions. Where are we on this? That is not micromanagement. That is trusting but verifying to hold people true to their word, right? Yeah. And developing that culture inside your organization. Because when you do that, and if you're not a jerk about it, people know you're going to check on them. So it's just like locking your door. Locking your door only keeps people that are going to make a bad choice out that aren't criminals, right? Keeps them good people from doing something stupid. It's the same thing with trust but verify. All you're doing is holding good people in a place where they can excel and get better.
No, I couldn't agree more. And it's stuff that also hits you at different stages, right? And I think, this is my take on this, there are certain functions within organizations that this is even more critical than it's important in all functions, but there are certain functions it's more critical. If you have a virtual workforce, if you have your sales team that many sales teams are never in the office, or they might come in the office one day a week. And that's a challenge, for a guy, this is Dave and I have had this talk personally, salespeople by nature do not like being in the office, at least good salespeople. Doesn't mean they're out eating bonbons laying around. They just hate being tied down to a desk. That describes a lot of outside salespeople. So you've got to have a way to make sure that you're helping hold them accountable, like Dave said, hold themselves accountable, and that they're getting the results that they need for their families and for the organization. But also, when you're talking about salespeople, most times their compensation is directly tied to the results, you want to help them be as successful as possible.
Yes.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you. I'm leaving as soon as we're done. No, I'm joking.
So I said yes, but the reality of this, if you're not having daily tactical 5-minute meetings,
Yeah.
cup of coffee meetings with your sales team, just to check in and make sure, okay, probably not a good thing. And I would say any middle manager or leader of an organization, if you're not having a 5-minute get together, we're going, hey, how's it going? What's going on? What are we working on today? What do you need my help on? And leave it at that. You're not helping your team be successful.
And I think it's also important, Dave, that if you're delivering those 5-minute huddles, 10-minute huddles effectively, your group's going to look forward to them.
Yep.
Because it's not a, oh, I got you thing. It's an, oh, how can I help you close something and make money thing. And that goes back to culture, right? I think that, we've got a client that we've been doing virtual follow-ups with, weekly follow-ups with, and it's been really good for everybody because we've been able to get a lot of full disclosure, a lot of real conversations about what are specific calls, specific clients. Hey, this was the customer, this is the background, this is what I did, this was the outcome. Sometimes it's we sold it, sometimes it's we not, and how can I get back in there? Sometimes it's, hey, I'm working with this client and I'm finding this barrier. How do I keep the process moving forward? But these real world conversations where it's honest, open sharing of information to try to help each other, people look forward to that. The only stuff they hate is when they get the email saying, how many calls did you make today? How many prospects do you have in your pipeline? That's micromanagement. Do not do that. When you do your huddles, you're going to know if they're doing sales calls or if they're working the sales funnels correctly through social media or through whatever means you're using to generate lead flow. You're going to be able to tell that. So don't create a problem within the culture because you're asking these questions that can only be described as micromanagement. If you're asking a grown adult, how many calls did you make today? That's going to drive them nuts. Just give yourself 4 or 5 days to your next huddle. You're going to know. And there's not going to be any real additional harm done in those few days.
Well, I think the thing to really talk about here is your weekly or bi-monthly sales meetings are where you talk about goals and metrics.
Correct.
Right? Your daily huddles is just, hey, what do you need help with?
Yep.
What are you working on? Phil's not saying don't track metrics. Phil's saying
no, you have to track metrics.
Don't pound up somebody's head every day about their call
activity. Right. Don't end every day with an email that says, okay, George, how many calls did you make today?
That's a weekly or bi-monthly event where you talk about, hey, is it going on track? Are you going to the right place? Because some days you're going to make more calls than others, but your monthly, as long as your monthly call volume is where it should be, you're good.
And really, this is the end of the true measurement of somebody doing their job is how many sales did they hit their sales goal for that time frame. If you don't watch the simple things like activity and the stuff you're doing, people are going to get in a hole. So, but that's what those huddles are for, is to help keep them motivated and working in the right direction.
The huddles are inspirational.
They are.
That's what they should be every day. So we've had a lot of people working remotely, and we're starting to move back to the office. Some companies are saying, no, you're not moving back to the office. So
a lot of companies.
So as a leader, what things can you do to trust and inspire leadership with a remote workforce? How do you manage that one without making them feel micromanaged?
Well, you got to create opportunities. In my opinion, I saw a really cool thing yesterday. Actually got invited to it. I couldn't go because I had another call, but they do virtual lunches. They do virtual fun events where they get together and do things virtually just to keep people connected. I think that's a very, very important thing to do. Is you got to continue to develop the relationships, because the one thing that scares me about virtual is we lose the relationships. We lose the reality of what's going on in each other's lives. How can I help you? You lose the ability to walk and talk. If you're not very intentional with the things you're doing. So create opportunities to have not meetings per se, but to have virtual social events, virtual just get-togethers. You've got to do those things. You're going to have virtual meetings, but you don't want everything to be a meeting. If you're going to truly build a relationship with somebody, it's got to be about, George needs X, and you can help George with X. It has nothing to do with work, so you just help George with X. Well, if you're not having conversations, you're never going to know what X is.
So,
you're just you become robots.
So I'm going to be a little cheesy here and talk about something we've done with my family, with the kids for years. And it's every night at dinner, it's Pits and Peaks, right?
Yep.
And I would offer, as a business manager, if you want to develop strong relationships as a leader of an organization, that you share with your team Pits and Peaks on a weekly or monthly basis. Get together, hey, 3 things you're thankful for, 3 things that have happened in the company that you're proud of, that are personal life that you've done, and 3 things you're struggling with that maybe we can help you with.
Yep.
Right? And don't overshare, obviously, but it's an opportunity to connect on a personal level and get to know a person and what they're doing.
I think, doing those kind of things is going to also, what it does is it develops trust. If you want to develop trust with somebody, tell somebody something that's very, very highly confidential, and then see if they share that, right? Now, Dave and I lived in a world of psyops also. So there's you can find this out without sharing real stuff. but I've seen people, I know my trust level, if I share something with somebody in confidence that's on my mind, and they truly are protectors of that information, and they respect that and they honor that, and they do it the right way. Well, my trust level with them goes through the roof. You just can't be that person that shares confidential stuff, right? I mean, you just can't be. In our business, we work with a lot of different companies and a lot of different industries, but also some of these companies are in relatively small communities. You say one offhanded comment and attach a name to it, and you're done. I mean, so we live in a world where confidentiality is of the utmost importance. Now, we both also had very high top secret clearances at one time, and I think they scared the living crap out of us.
Yeah.
If you do this, you're going to jail.
Oh, no. I signed one that can be executed
Absolutely.
by firing range or gun, whatever, shot.
Yeah, it's not good.
I'm good. I don't need to be shot. I'll be all right. I'm good. Firing squad doesn't sound like fun to me. Better than other things, maybe.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it's about creating opportunities to stay connected. You've got to do that, because even if you're not coming to the office together, as people get back out, if geography allows it, schedule I know you love to shoot sporting clay.
Yep.
Find out, what do people like to do. As parents, I know we always try to do this with our kiddos, is we would take them on individual dates. We would just go out with our kids, or find something that, if we had a few of our kids that like certain things, we'd go do that activity with them. But just find ways, create opportunities where you can laugh, you can have fun, you can build the relationship. You want to shoot sporting clay? You want to shoot sporting clay sometime?
We can, but not today. It's raining like cats and dogs.
Thought that would
It's probably flooded out there.
That would add an element of intrigue to the whole event.
So here's the last question, and I think it's an important one to discuss. Can you be a bad person and a great leader?
I don't think there's any way. Maybe in the short term you can. Yeah, maybe for a brief second you can, but you're going to get found out pretty quick.
So experience-wise, in the military and working with companies, if you have an inherently bad character or a bad soul, that will come out in your leadership. If you do not genuinely care for people, you'll be found out. If you are doing this just for your self-worth and your success, people know it. Yep. Don't think you're hiding anything from anybody. Your team knows it. I worked for those leaders, right? And everybody knew that they were a jackwagon, and everybody talked behind their back about how horrible they were. They were just trying to survive the experience. Yeah. There was a group commander at Tinker, and I will not say his name, but he basically, his mode of operandi was to chew out a commander at every staff meeting just for fun. He was a horrible, horrible person. It's the way he treated people. It was that 2 years he was in command was probably the hardest 2 years of my Air Force career, because we were just trying to survive.
Let me ask you a question. Was he always like that, do you think? How did he raise to a rank that put him in charge of so many people?
Because he was an old school SAC guy, right?
Yeah,
And that was that there were people that thought that was
that was the mode of operation.
right. That
Yeah,
they thought it
yeah,
was cool. Now,
yeah.
not everybody did, but I have worked for leaders that have that. I've worked for leaders that are tough on you but love you,
Yeah.
right? You can be hard on somebody and push them and love them, or you can be hard on somebody and just be a jerk, right? And he had snowed everybody above him because they thought he was just being hard on people to push him, and he was just a jerk. I mean, he was just a horse's backside.
My guy was Colonel Carsonson, and he was an old prior enlisted guy, and just what if you looked up in a dictionary what a rugged man looked like, it would be Colonel C. And him and I had a very great relationship, but he gave me, out of my top 5 fill in small moments, deservedly so, where I screwed up or I did something I shouldn't have done. He has all 5 of them, right? Never did it publicly, but I loved him so much and respected him so much when he did it. It just destroyed me. I mean, it just destroyed me. And when I was in my youth, I had a hard time not having, what's the right way to say this? I was a very physical young man. So
he never backed down from a conflict.
So I got in a lot of trouble. But what he would do, he was also my greatest advocate. He was also my biggest fan. He was the guy that always told me. I was lucky enough. I won 15th Air Force Airman of the Year one year. Was awarded that, and I remember when I got it, I was like, well, ain't no way in hell this makes any sense. I have got this wrong. But Colonel C sold. He was an advocate for me. He saw the good in me. He saw the right stuff in me. And I think as a leader, you got to do that. You don't do those kind of things, even if you're tough at times. And you got to understand that distinction. You can be hardcore tough and have the greatest character in the world. We're not talking about if somebody's tough on you doesn't mean that they don't have high character. My experience has been there's a difference between humiliating and embarrassing and being tough and holding you accountable.
Yep.
And trying to make you the best version of you. And that was Colonel C. He tried to make everybody the best version that they could be. Absolute stud. Just an absolute stud. And he's and isn't it funny too, when you have a great leader, Dave, you never forget them. Yep. You remember every little detail about them. I can tell you how he wore his beret. I can tell you how he freaking wore his boots. I can tell you everything about him because it's so vivid in my mind. Because, and he was a big guy. He was one of these guys that was, 6'3",
bigger than life. Yeah,
6'3", 6'4", big, raw bone, just tougher than a boot. Probably never had to fight because everybody was scared of him.
I'm sure he found his way into a couple of scuffles.
But those kind of leaders inspire you, and you never lose what they tell you. You never forget it. It's always sitting right there in your mind. Situationally, things will come up and you think of them. We have coaches that way, teachers that way. If you were lucky enough to have great parents, your parents are there, or uncles, or people that influence you. There's leaders in all walks of life. It's not just in business, there's leaders in your life everywhere. So value those great ones. And I always try to say, learn from the ones that weren't great so that you know what not to do.
Well, learn from both, right? Take the good and the bad and model your career. Just know who the good ones are and the bad ones are. I think sometimes we get confused of what a good leader and a bad leader is when you're younger.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about and walk through. And here's the test of time. And I've used this my entire life. When you can no longer look yourself in the mirror, you've taken on some bad habits and you need to adjust yourself. So never put yourself in a position where you can't look the person in the mirror across from you and be proud of what you're doing or what you're becoming and how you treat people.
Yeah.
Because the day that happens, the day you've lost your way as a leader and a manager and an owner of a business.
And be authentic.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, don't try to be something you're not. Gary Vee, who's a guy, and I always say Gary Vee like everybody because I can't pronounce his last name. He's a big social influencer, very successful entrepreneur, public speaker. I'm sure many of you know him, but he's, he showed a video clip in one of his podcasts when he was just getting started, and he's sitting there all proper, and he's got his little sweater vest on, and he's trying to be, he goes, this is when I first started. He goes, I was trying to be what I thought everybody wanted me to be and not look at, and not just be who I am. He said, when I became authentic, and this is how he curses. He curses like a sailor. He said, that was the house I was raised in. He said, it's not like I intend to curse. He goes, but at the end of the day, I wasn't authentically being who I really was. So once he said, screw it, I'm just going to be who I am, and people are either going to like it or they're not, his business exploded, right? And so there's, be authentic in how you do things, be genuine, be transparent, understand that Jennifer's got a great comment. Be genuine and transparent in a world of fakes. That's true. That will make, if you're just genuine and authentic, you will stand out. You will stand out. Matt, who we always love seeing Matt here. Matt is one of the most authentic people you will ever meet. He is who he is.
Yes, who he is.
And I love that. No, I love that. I mean, it's we both do, but I've been loving it for 55 years. But be who you authentically are, right? And understand that everybody's not for everybody. It's okay, but don't get caught up in this deal of trying to be perfect, of trying to match every scenario, so people don't see how screwed up you are, really, right? I mean, we all have our things we got to get better at. So be authentic, and that'll take you a long ways. But we got some great dialogue going here.
Yeah, Matt wants to make a meme. John King had no father uncle could help me guide me, but I'm a self-made man of natural leader. Live it every day. That's awesome, John.
Yeah, that is, brother. People that can do that, like John.
Yeah.
They're unicorns.
They are. and John, I don't know how much you follow this, but my father passed away when I was very young, and my coaches ended up being my mentors in life all the way through college. So I understand how hard it is to find your path when you don't have that mentor in the house anymore. It's very, very challenging.
Yeah, and Matt and I, we grew up in a little town in southeastern Kansas, and we were both blessed to have very incredible fathers and mothers and great family support. But beyond that, in our little town, there were examples of good people all around us that actively cared about our lives. And you may not have fully mentioned or knew it when you were a kid, but when you're older and you look back and you go, man, that's why Del Pohl did that to me that one day. He cared. Or that's why, Phil Evans talked to me about this, or that's why Coach Bowen said this, or Coach Pass said that, or, you put the pieces together, right, later in life. But great leaders, there's a lot of people out there that want to help you if you're just open to it, if you're just being transparent and looking for it. One wonders how Elon Musk was so effective with no experience. He must have had some incredible. Yeah, Matt posted that about Elon Musk. He's done okay.
He's a pretty smart guy.
Smart guy.
He's Matt smart.
He is Matt smart. Matt is that smart.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why I said he's Matt smart.
He is Matt smart. But I got to say this. I know we got to run, Dave, but I got to say this. I just saw a deal about Elon and his grandfather, who was born in Minnesota. Because I've always thought of Elon as being from South Africa, but his grandfather, I believe he said on his mother's side, is from Minnesota, and moved them overseas because he was a amateur explorer, and he had a little red airplane, and he was the first guy to fly from somewhere to somewhere. I can't remember where, but his grandpa was really his inspiration. To be that guy because Elon, if you don't think Elon Musk is an explorer, you're not paying attention. He's an explorer. And I think there's just so much opportunity out there to learn from people and to even cast a vision for what maybe your life can look like. If you'll just follow it, it can be incredible. So Elon Musk he's a once in a lifetime kind of human being. There's no doubt.
No doubt. So, hey, if you're out there, share stuff with people. We want to help as many people as we can. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go out and take the time to do that. Thanks for being here today. With that, Dave and Phil, we are out of here. Thanks, John.